Welcome back. In case you were just joining us, upon viewing the Cantina scene as originally completed, George Lucas felt it could be better, and hired Rick Baker, who assembled a team to create additional aliens to be filmed separately and edited into the existing scene. To save time, Baker supplemented the masks his team created with several from his own personal inventory that he had previously made. The idea was to use these as background characters, but to his dismay, several ended up being front and center, which caused some issues later on. In total, Baker and his team contributed 25 new creatures that made it into the film, which were used to portray somewhere around 29 different aliens. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Bracaner Bakiska. This particular individual was actually a remold of another Baker donation, the Terminal Man, or Trento Duwaba, as we will see shortly. To change it up, though, somebody added a droopy and ridiculous mustache. He lurks at a table behind the Wolfman, Brainiac, and the Don Rickles alien. This photo provides us a better look at his costume, which is a long tan robe worn over a long brown tunic. For years, he was jokingly called Fu Manchu by fans, but at Star Wars Celebration 6 in 2012, he was given an official name using that of a fan who won a contest, and combining it with the names of Lane Liska and Rick Baker. Cantina band member, backing band. It's hard to imagine the Cantina scene without the iconic design of this alien. Sculpted by Doug Beswick and modified from Rick Baker's original design, the Cantina band became instant representatives for Star Wars all over the world. As we mentioned, in the film though, it's impossible to count how many members the band actually has. Note this photo, which shows all 7 sets of masks and hands that Baker's team produced. Over the years, different toys, playsets, and artwork have attributed varying numbers of members to the Cantina band, commonly 5 or 6, but to settle the question once and for all, you just have to find the right photograph. Here there are 2 background band members that can be hard to see. Some photos give you the suggestion of a shoulder, and one background member is definitely seated. The band member seated at Muftak's table, named Liren Karin, is simply a reused mask. Here are the names of the backing band members in the film. As you can see, Biths love apostrophes. Today, one of the original band member masks is in the collection of legendary actor and archivist Bob Burns. Cantina band member, Figrin Dan. The leader of the band, which is called the Modal Nodes, was actually named several years before his bandmates. In the Star Wars Holiday Special, he was referred to by the name Barbarine, which is another thing that we will see later. Action figures of the band have been produced several times. The first was a generic figure offered as a mail-away premium in 1997 that came with 5 different instruments, expecting you to buy multiples. Several others have followed, including a full set, as well as a 6-inch Figrin Dan in the Black Series line, made the same year as an exclusive Nayland Cheel, who included the rest of the instruments, meaning that once again you had to buy duplicates to make the whole band, which was rather pricey. Liren Karin. In a clever move, one of the 7 band member masks was reused as a completely different table-filling alien. If you want an action figure of him, though, you will have to customize it yourself, although plenty of existing parts are available to do it. Lots of people think he is a member of the band despite his completely different attire. Even as a kid, I always believed he was probably the band's manager. Hem Dazon. Literally, the very first thing you see in the Cantina scene is this guy, but actually, all you can see is all there ever was of this alien. He was operated as a hand puppet, and as photos show us, had a flashlight jammed into the back of his head so that his eyes would light up. In 1994, the Star Wars Screen Entertainment Screensaver software, remember those, named this alien Cal Nakai, before Weston Games changed it the following year. Hem is yet another Cantina alien that today resides in the collection of Bob Burns. Responding to fan requests, Hasbro produced an action figure of this character in 2006, but in my opinion, he just doesn't look right with a body. Trento Duwaba. One of Rick Baker's donated masks that predated Star Wars, this alien began life as a reimagining of the Frankenstein monster, which is evident by the contact points in his head, hence the nickname Terminal Man. Baker wore it himself to a Halloween party he attended with his wife. It worked well for a background character in Lucas's project, and was also copied to make the Fu Manchu alien Bracaner Bakiska, which increased the total number of masks that Baker's team was able to produce in a limited time period. In 2008, Hasbro killed two birds with one stone when they gave surprised fans a 2-pack that included Trinto Duaba and Dice Ibagon. Duros number 3. Since we are going in alphabetical order, this alien comes up first, before his other Duros brethren. Since this patron is apparently a separate character, he should be included here. Visible over Greedo's shoulder during his confrontation with Han Solo is a table with two Cantina patrons, Mayo and a Duros. Mayo appears to be dressed the same as his appearance in a side alcove. However, this Duros is not dressed like either of the pair we see engrossed in conversation in a corner of the cantina. This third one is wearing the same jacket as the Wolfman, Arlael Schaus, and has alien hands rather than human ones. Godel number 2. Extra mileage was gotten out of the Godel mask during the filming at Dovington Studio. Besides the Godel we are most familiar with, known as Feltapern Travag, who is in a booth with Skullhead and Yamnose. Besides the Godel we are most familiar with, named Feltapern Travag, who is in a booth with Skullhead and Yamnose, this second, unnamed Godel sits in Hammerhead's booth, with his back to the camera. It wears a completely different outfit, complete with a uniform-style coat, and, actually, blue jeans, which were never intended to be seen, of course. Godel number 3. Yet another Godel was put together, to do a walkthrough behind the close-ups of Greedo that were filmed. The Cantina panel at Star Wars Celebration 2015 showed how all of his wardrobe was reused. This Godel utilized the tan robe from Terminal Man, the brown overcoat from Yamnose, the Godel mask, as well as the Godel hands, which, by the way, were remolded from Rick Baker's Demon Baby hands from 1974's It's Alive, and then covered in fur. Here is what the full-length ensemble looked like, and here is what it looked like on screen. Ellis Hellrot. This unusual alien was created by Ralph McQuarrie and is not even seen in the finished film, but he is really there, at the table with the named Godel, Feltapern Travag, and Yamnose. Even stranger, for an unseen alien, he also appears to have a unique set of hands, which was something of a rarity among Cantina aliens. Fans were lucky and surprised that Hasbro made an action figure of him in the 30th anniversary collection in 2007. Dice Ibagon. One thing Rick Baker's team provided Lucas with was an excellent variety of alien types, among them this snake-like creature that surprises the viewer and gives the cantina an atmosphere of unpredictability. Notice the tubes coming from the alien. In this photo, where Phil Tippett is manipulating the puppet, you can see they are connected to a cylinder. The original plan was for this alien to exude some sort of apparently red goo, which George Lucas decided against during filming as being a bit too sensational. The original puppet was sold in a 2011 auction at the Prop Store website. Of course, the creature had to be fleshed out a bit in order to provide us with an action figure, and as we said, he came in a 2-pack with Trinto Duaba. Banis Keeg. The Duros are a famous pair of aliens designed by Ron Cobb and brought to life by Baker's team, notably Phil Tippett, and as we have seen, there were actually 3 characters made from the 2 masks. Banis Keeg wears clothes similar to a Tatooine resident. Only one set of Duros hands are in the film at any given time, and here they are worn by Keeg. Now, what is this alien's actual name? Follow me if you can. In 1993, West End Games' Galaxy Guide 7 mentioned a Duros named Chachi Damal. In 1994, the Star Wars Screen Entertainment screensaver software named this alien Probos. Then, in 1995, Decipher names this alien Banis Keeg in their Star Wars customizable card game. Then, an article in 2001 suggests that this alien is Chachi Damal and is female and is married to the second Duros. Ironically, Ron Cobb, on the original concept art, wrote of this creature, "Nothing known." Labria. This mask was another that Rick Baker pulled from his own personal inventory. There is evidence that it might have been created for the John Landis movie Schlock. Today, the original mask is in the collection of, you guessed it, Bob Burns. In 1995, the book Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina said that Labria's name was an alias for Cardu Sai Malak, although Hasbro completely ignored this when an action figure was made in 1998 and again in 2006. Pons Limbic. Decipher first named this character as Brainiac, and, perhaps because DC Comics already had a long-standing character by that name, he was completely renamed when his action figure came out. His costume is vintage, from an Old Republic serial called Spy Smasher, a character ironically owned by, wait for it, DC Comics. This is another mask that is owned today by Bob Burns. An action figure was released in the Legacy collection, and he included a Cantina table, which ensured that multiples would be purchased. Elors Medak. This Gyros wears a spacesuit from Escape from the Planet of the Apes, like the spaceman Dan Sporen who we looked at before. He also has human hands, which are in gloves, a fact that Hasbro completely missed for their action figure. Like Banis Keeg, there was an attempt in 2001 to rename this alien as Owen DeMol, husband to Chachi, who we talked about earlier. The 1994 Screensaver software named this alien Bringe. Wonderos mask was used again in Return of the Jedi as a background alien in Jabba's palace, later named Laslomi Tessima by Decipher. In 2011, Wonderos mask and a pair of hands were attempted to be sold in auction, but did not reach the reserve price, and later were offered again in October of 2016. This time the mask had been repaired, and the photos give us a rare look at what the inside of a Cantina mask looks like. Muftak. This adorable head-scratching Cantina monster was realized as the upper half of a costume only. He sits with Liren Karin, Jaspur, and Mayo in an alcove of their own. Bob Burns is a very lucky man to own this costume, and in 2017 it was cleaned, restored, and repaired by Tom Spina, which is detailed on his website. Unbelievably, there has only been one Muftak action figure so far, and that was in an exclusive mail-order 2-pack from 1998, where he was paired with his best friend Cabe, who is a girl. Mayo. This strange Cyclops alien was designed by Lane Liska, and the mask appeared again in the Star Wars Holiday Special, where his eye is closed and stays that way until he is thrown out of the cantina. Hasbro has produced one Mayo action figure in the original trilogy collection in 2005. Momon Nadon, but he'll always be Hammerhead to me. One of the most brilliant and inspired designs in the entire Cantina, Ron Cobb's remarkable concept art for this alien is very detailed. Titled Aquatic Air Breather Amphibian, the diagrams show two head positions for swimming, labeled Hunting and Long Distance Swimming. In the corner are diagrams of the creature's hands with the following text. Feeds by passing plankton-bearing water through mouth slits and out lower neck openings. Brain in hump at base of neck. Speaks through implanted transmitter to external voice box on chest. Very gentle. Has religion based on tying and untying knots in cords. From the Phil Tippett items auctioned off in October of 2016, here are 2 pages of diagrams by John Berg, showing eye mechanism designs for Hammerhead. A list shows some items that would be needed for the mechanisms, including eye forms, brass tube, fish cable, springs, and finger splints. It took both John Berg and Phil Tippett to operate Hammerhead as a large, half-body puppet. John Berg said about the famous creature he sculpted, "It appears in close-up. There really was a lot more to it. We shot a lot of stuff with it, and I don't think you could really tell exactly what it was without a longer cut. I don't think that was the pacing that George wanted to use for it, and that's why it's in there so briefly." A few Hammerhead action figures have been made over the years, with a slick-looking 6-inch figure being added to the Black Series line in the near future. Mayum Oneth. It's easy to see how this ugly alien got its nickname, as it really does look like a freshly dug-up vegetable. The mask was used again in Return of the Jedi as a background alien for Jabba's palace, and then somewhere slipped Lucasfilm's grasp because it was sold in an auction in 2011. According to the book Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, this alien is female and you do not want to date her. Hasbro made an action figure once in the 30th anniversary collection. Jaspur. Not much is known about this throwaway alien. We do know the name is pronounced Jasper because he is named after a Decipher employee's cat. The same mask was either repainted or remolded for a flesh-colored version of this alien used in the Star Wars Holiday Special. Hasbro made an action figure around the time of Episode 2. Arliel Schaus. This Cantina patron has a history. This is one of the pre-existing masks that Rick Baker added to the numbers of what he and his team produced. Apparently invented to be sold at conventions or as a mail-order item, he first wore it in the Bob Burns 1974 Halloween extravaganza called Thing in the Attic. The mask was unusual for the time because it featured red eyes that really lit up, and Baker was shocked when the mask was used for a close-up in the film, as this wasn't his original intention. For our purposes here, this alien sits with Brainiac, Don Rickles, T-Head, and Fu Manchu in an alcove, and he wears the same jacket that was used for Duros number 3. He was also replaced by a CGI alien in the 1997 special edition. This is yet another original Cantina mask that resides in the collection of Bob Burns to this day. So far there is no action figure of him, but there is a remote possibility if the HasLab Cantina playset reaches 17,000 backers. Let's hope they produce him anyway. Lak Sivrak. The other Wolfman in the Cantina has a similar story in that Rick Baker took it from his shelf and added it to his team's output. He was equally surprised to see that it was used so prominently. George Lucas must have felt the same way because he also replaced this particular alien with the CGI one in the special edition, and yet we still got an action figure of him in 1998. Feltepern Travag. The only Godel with a name was nicknamed High Tundra because of Ron Cobb's notes, which referred to the alien's habitat. Cobb's notes went on to say that the creature was, quote, mammal-like, herbivore, excellent mechanic, very grumpy, smell bad. This Godel sits at a table with Yam Nose and Skullhead and is having a grand old time. Or, according to Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, he is putting the moves on Yam Nose. Ew. It didn't end well. Hasbro made an excellent action figure in 2005, but it cannot sit down due to its tunic design. Bomb Vimden. This alien was the voice of the beloved Mr. Potato Head in the Toy Story movie. Wait, sorry, that was the real Don Rickles. This scowling, foul-looking alien sits at Brainiac's table in the Cantina and wears a studded vest. Hasbro gave us a very well-done action figure of him in the vintage collection. In closing, let's talk Cantina population numbers. We looked at 52 characters in our Elstree directory. This includes the unknowns that we looked at, but does not include Chal Bakan, who, after all, isn't real. Add to that 3 unnamed Jawas that we know of. This gives us a total of 55. Add to this the original aliens filmed at Dovington's, 20 original masks. This includes the 2 Duros and 7 sets of band member masks, plus 6 masks Rick Baker brought from home. Subtract Rungs, who was not used, gives us a total of 25. Add to that the reused masks, Duros number 3, Godel number 2, Godel number 3, and Lirin Karin, assuming Mayo is the same alien. This gives us a total of 29, which added to our Elstree number gives us 84. But wait, we're missing something because, after all, Han Solo and Chewbacca were there, giving us a grand total population of the Mos Eisley Cantina of 86. Thereabouts. Next time, is it true in the first year of marketing Star Wars that the Cantina all but disappeared? Maybe purposefully excluded? We'll take a look at the evidence and decide for ourselves if it's true. We'll see you then.